The Volanthi had watched Earth for 3,000 years. They were old, older than most stars in this part of the galaxy. Their bodies were made of living crystal that glowed with soft light, and they had stopped fighting wars before humans had even learned to walk upright. Now they spent their long lives doing one thing: protecting young species from the monsters that lived between the stars. High Protector. Yellen stood on the bridge of her ship and looked at the small blue planet on her screen. Earth. Such a tiny world. Such fragile creatures living on it. The humans had only just discovered fire when the Volanthi first found them. Now they had cities and machines and dreams of reaching the stars. They had no idea what was waiting for them out there. "The Carrick swarm has changed course," said Kale, her young advisor. His crystal body flickered with worry. "They will reach this system in 40 years. Yellen felt something break inside her. The Carricks. She had seen what they did to other worlds. She had watched them devour the singing people of Vela 7. She had witnessed them strip the green forests of Tendara until nothing remained but dust and bone. 400 civilizations had fallen to the swarm. 400 species had screamed their last screams while the Carricks fed on their pterodot, and now they were coming for Earth. "Show me the humans again," Yellen said quietly. The screen changed. It showed a human city at night, full of lights and movement. Small vehicles moved through the streets. Humans walked together, talking and laughing. In one window, Yellen could see a mother holding a baby close to her chest. "They are so young," Yellen whispered. "They still fight each other over small pieces of land. They still believe they are alone in the universe." "They are not ready," Kale agreed. "They cannot fight the swarm. No one can fight the swarm." This was true. The Carricks were not like other species. They did not want resources or territory. They wanted fear. They fed on the terror of thinking beings, and they had grown so large and so powerful that nothing could stop them. The Volanthi had tried once, long ago. They had lost half their fleet in a single day dot, so they had learned a different way. They could not fight the swarm, but they could hide from it. "We will use the shroud," Yellen announced. Kale's light dimmed with shock. "High Protector. The energy cost would be enormous. We would drain our reserves for 100 years. Our other protection missions would suffer. I know. The Council will not approve. Then I will make them approve." Yellen turned to face her advisor fully. "Look at them, Kale. Look at these humans. They are violent and foolish, and they hurt each other for no reason. But there is something in them. Something I have not seen in 1,000 years. What do you see?" Yellen was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know yet, but I feel it. This species is important. They must survive." The Council argued for 7 days. Many Volanthi believed it was wrong to spend so much energy on one small species. Others said the humans were too violent, too dangerous, that perhaps the galaxy would be better without them. But Yellen spoke with passion and power, and in the end, the Council voted to approve the shroud. 72 Volanthi ships moved into position around Earth's solar system. They formed a perfect sphere, each ship linked to the others by streams of crystal energy. When they activated the shroud, the energy drain was immense. Yellen felt it in her bones, a terrible pulling sensation as centuries of stored power flowed out into the barrier. But it worked. From outside, Earth's solar system simply vanished. Light bent around it. Signals scattered into noise. Any ship that tried to approach would find itself going in circles, never getting closer. The Carricks could search for 1,000 years and never find this tiny blue world. The swarm arrived 39 years. Later, Delenn watched from her hidden position as millions of Carricks vessels passed through the space where Earth should have been. They were looking for prey. Their sensors swept back and forth, hungry and patient. But they found nothing. After 3 months, they moved on. Yellen allowed herself to breathe again. The humans were safe. They would never know how close they had come to extinction. They would never know that 72 ships of living crystal stood between them and the darkness. And so the Volanthi watched and waited and protected. Years passed. The humans grew and changed. They stopped some of their wars. They built bigger machines. They sent small robots to explore their neighboring planets. Yellen watched it all with something like pride. Her humans were growing up, but she also saw things that worried her. The humans were curious. Too curious. They kept looking outward, building bigger telescopes, sending more signals into space. They wanted to find other life. They wanted to know if they were alone. "They are going to find the shroud eventually," Kale warned one day. He was older now, his crystal darker with age. Their technology improves every year. They are already detecting strange readings at the edge of their system. "Let them detect," Yellen said. "They cannot break through." "Are you certain?" Yellen looked at the screen showing Earth. A human rocket was launching, carrying people to their moon for the 100th time. Such determination. Such endless reaching for more. "The shroud is impenetrable," she said firmly. "No technology can break it. We designed it that way." Kale did not argue. He trusted the High Protector's wisdom. The Volanthi had protected hundreds of species over the millennia. They knew what they were doing. But sometimes, late at night when her ship was quiet, Yellen would watch the humans and feel a strange unease. There was something in the way they moved. Something in the way they never stopped pushing forward, never stopped fighting, never stopped reaching for things beyond their grasp. The other species the Volanthi had protected were grateful to hide. They built their civilizations in the shadows, safe and peaceful, never wanting to be found. The humans were different. The humans wanted to be found, and deep in her ancient crystal heart, Yellen wondered if perhaps she had made a mistake. Not in protecting them, but in assuming she understood what they were. She pushed the thought away. The humans were young and fragile, and they needed her protection. That was all that mattered. The shroud would hold. It had to hold. 50 years had passed since the Volanthi raised the shroud around Earth. Yellen was old now, even by her species' standards. Her crystal body had grown dark and heavy, and she spent most of her time resting in her chamber. But she still watched the humans every day. She had grown to love them in her own way, these strange, violent creatures who never stopped dreaming of the stars. She was sleeping when the alarms began. The sound cut through her dreams like a knife. Red light filled her chamber. She heard Kale shouting orders somewhere in the distance. Something was very wrong. Yellen moved as fast as her old body would allow. She reached the bridge just as another alarm joined the first. The main screen showed something that should have been impossible. A ship was pushing through the shroud. From the inside. "How?" Yellen whispered. Her voice was barely a sound. The ship was ugly by Volanthi standards. It was made of metal and ceramic, covered in strange symbols and blinking lights. It looked like something a child might build from scrap. But it was doing what no ship in the galaxy could do. It was tearing a hole in the shroud. "They call it the Armstrong," Kale said. His voice was shaking. "It is human. That is not possible. The shroud cannot be broken from inside or outside. We designed it to be perfect. Apparently the humans did not read our designs." The Armstrong pushed through the last layer of the shroud and emerged into open space. It hung there for a moment, scanning its surroundings. Then it turned directly toward the Volanthi flagship. It could see them. It knew exactly where they were. "They are sending a communication signal," one of the bridge officers reported. "They want to talk." Yellen straightened her old body as much as she could. "Put them through." The screen flickered. A human face appeared. It was a woman with gray hair and dark eyes that seemed to look right through Yelen's crystal form. She wore a uniform of some kind, covered in symbols and medals. Her expression was not friendly. "My name is Director Chen Wei," the woman said. "I represent the United Earth government. You have been blocking our signals and hiding our solar system for 50 years. We want to know why." Yelen felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. These humans had done something impossible. They had broken through the shroud with nothing but metal and fire and stubborn will. And now this woman was staring at her without any fear at all. "Please understand," Yelen began gently. "We did this to protect you. There are dangers in this galaxy that you cannot imagine. We have watched over your species since before you had language. We only wanted to keep you safe." Chen Wei did not blink. "We know about the Carracks." The bridge went silent. Yelen felt her light flicker with shock. How could they know? The shroud blocked all outside signals. There was no way the humans could have learned about the swarm. "We intercepted fragments," Chen Wei continued, as if reading Yelen's thoughts. "Small pieces of data that slipped through your barrier. It took us 20 years to decode them. We know about the swarm. We know about the 400 species they destroyed. And we know they are coming back." Kale stepped forward. His crystal body was bright with alarm. "Then you understand why we must protect you. The Carracks are beyond anything you can fight. They have devoured civilizations far older and more powerful than yours. Your only hope is to stay hidden." "No," the word hung in the air. Chen Wei said it without anger, without fear. She said it like she was stating a simple fact. 50 years ago, when you raised your barrier, humanity was divided and weak. We were fighting each other over politics and resources. We had no idea what was out there." Chen Wei leaned forward slightly. "That is no longer true." She pressed a button. Data began streaming onto the Volanti screens. Ship designs, weapon systems, fleet positions, manufacturing reports. The numbers were staggering. "In 50 years, we have unified our governments," Chen Wei said. "We have solved our energy problems. We have built 17 deep space battlecruisers, each one armed with weapons specifically designed to fight the Carracks." Yelen studied the data with growing disbelief. The humans had been busy, very busy. While the Volanti thought they were protecting a fragile young species, that species had been preparing for war. "How did you know what weapons to build?" Yelen asked. "The fragments you intercepted could not have contained enough information." Chen Wei almost smiled. It was not a warm expression. "We are very good at guessing." "This is madness," Kale said. His voice was high with stress. "You cannot fight the Carracks. No one can fight the Carracks. They number in the trillions. They have been consuming species for 1,000,000 years. Your ships, your weapons, they are nothing against the swarm." "The Volanti tried to fight them once," Yelen added gently. "We lost half our fleet in a single battle. We learned that day that some enemies cannot be defeated. They can only be avoided." Chen Wei was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the old Volanti with something that might have been pity, and she laughed on. It was not a happy sound. It was dark and cold and full of something the Volanti did not understand. Chen Wei laughed like someone who knew a secret that would change everything. "You think you are protecting Earth from the Carracks," she said when she finished laughing. "You have been watching us for 3,000 years, and you still do not understand what we are. What do you mean?" Chen Wei stood up from her chair. Behind her, Yelen could see other humans moving around the bridge of the Armstrong. They all had the same look in their eyes. Not fear, not desperation. Something else entirely. "Lower the shroud," Chen Wei said. "Let us out." "We cannot do that. The Carracks will find you. That is exactly what we want." Yellen felt very old in that moment. Very old and very confused. She had protected hundreds of species over her long life. She knew what prey looked like. She knew how civilizations reacted when they learned about the monsters in the darkness. This was not how they were supposed to react. "You do not understand what you are asking," Yellen said. "If we lower the shroud, the Carracks will come. They will find your world. They will devour everything you have built." Chen Wei smiled, and this time it was not a kind expression at all. It was the smile of something that had been waiting in the darkness for a very long time. "You have no idea who you are endangering," she said. "And it is not us." Yellen did not understand. She had lived for thousands of years and watched hundreds of species face the truth about the galaxy. She had seen brave warriors weep when they learned about the Carracks. She had watched peaceful philosophers go mad with terror. Every species reacted the same way when they understood what was out there in the darkness, but these humans were laughing. "I think we need to explain something to you," Chunwei said. Her voice was calm and patient, like a teacher speaking to a confused student. "You have been watching us for 3,000 years, but you have been watching from very far away. You see our cities and our machines and our wars. You do not see what made us." She pressed a button on her console. The screen changed to show images of Earth, but these were not pictures of human cities or human rockets. These were pictures of something older, much older. 60,000 years ago, humans were prey, Chanwei said. The images showed early humans. They were small and thin, with no claws or fangs or armor. Around them, the world was full of monsters. Giant cats with teeth like knives. Wolves that hunted in packs. Bears that could crush a human with one blow. Birds with claws that could tear flesh from bone. Every predator on our world could kill us, Chengwei continued. We were slow. We were weak. We had no natural weapons. By every measure, we should have gone extinct. Yellen watched the images with growing fascination. She had studied humans from orbit, but she had never looked this deeply into their history. "So what did you do?" she asked. Genwei's smile grew colder. "We hunted them back." The images changed. They showed humans with spears and fire. They showed humans working together, chasing animals across open plains. They showed humans surrounding their predators and killing them one by one. "We could not outrun our prey," Chunwei said. "So we followed them. For hours. For days. We walked after them without stopping, never letting them rest, never letting them escape. Do you know what that feels like, Protector? To be hunted by something that never stops? That never sleeps? That just keeps coming no matter how far you run." Yellen did not answer. She was beginning to feel something she had not felt in a very long time. Fear. "We call it persistence hunting," Chunwei said. "Other predators are fast. They chase and they catch and they kill. But humans are different. We are the monsters that follow. We do not catch you today. We catch you when you are too tired to run anymore." The images showed wolves being domesticated. They showed mammoths falling to human spears. They showed every great predator on Earth either dying or bending to human will. "Every creature that ever hunted us is now gone," Chunwei said. "Dead or tamed. Every single one. Because humans do not accept being prey. We do not hide. We do not run forever. We turn around and we hunt." Kale's crystal body was flickering with distress. "But the Carracks are not animals. They are a spacefaring species. They have destroyed civilizations that had technology far beyond yours." "Yes, they have." Chunwei pulled up new images. Human history. Wars and battles and terrible destruction. And we have destroyed ourselves a dozen times over. We have fought wars that killed millions. We have built weapons that can end all life on our planet. We have looked into the darkness of our own souls and found monsters there too. The images showed atomic explosions, cities burning, the worst moments of human history. But we are still here, Chen Wei said quietly. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every time we faced extinction, we found a way to survive. Not by hiding, not by running, by fighting until there was nothing left to fight. She turned to look directly at Yellen. Her eyes were hard as stone. The Carracks have never met anything like us. They have eaten species that were peaceful and species that were violent. They have consumed species that were old and species that were young. But they have never, in their million years of existence, met a species that was born to hunt them back. Yellen finally found her voice. You cannot be certain. The Carracks number in the trillions. They have powers you cannot imagine. We have been studying them for 50 years, Chun Wei replied. Every fragment of data we could steal through your shroud. Every piece of information we could gather. We know how they think. We know how they communicate. We know their weaknesses. They have no weaknesses. Everything has weaknesses. Chen Wei's voice was absolutely certain. The Carracks are a hive species. They share one mind across millions of bodies. They communicate through specific frequencies. They coordinate through biological signals that require precise timing. She leaned forward. We have built weapons to attack every single one of those systems. She sent another data package to the Volanti screens. This time, it was not just numbers and ship designs. It was a complete war plan. Strategies for fighting the swarm. Tactics for breaking their coordination. Weapons designed to turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. We call this Operation Perseus, Chun Wei said. It has been our secret project for 30 years. Every human government has contributed. Every human scientist has worked on it. Every human soldier has trained for it. She paused. We have been waiting for this moment since we first learned the Carracks existed. Yellen studied the war plan with a mixture of horror and admiration. It was brilliant and terrible. It was the work of a species that had been hunting and fighting since the moment it first walked upright. You planned to break through the shroud, Yellen said slowly. You planned this from the beginning. We planned for everything. Chen Wei stood up from her chair. We thank you for the protection you gave us, Protector. You bought us 50 years to prepare. But now the shroud comes down. One way or another. And if we refuse? Chen Wei looked at her with something that might have been respect. Or might have been pity. Then we will break through anyway. You have seen that we can. Your shroud is impressive, but we have already found 3 more ways to penetrate it. We were hoping you would cooperate, but we do not require your permission. Yellen looked at this human woman. She looked at the data streaming across her screens. She thought about 3,000 years of watching over this strange, violent species. And she finally understood what she had been feeling all along. That strange unease. That sense that something was different about the humans. They were not prey that needed protection. They were predators that had been locked in a cage, and they were ready to be set free. The shroud came down on a Tuesday. Yellen watched from her flagship as the great barrier that had protected Earth for 50 years dissolved into nothing. The crystal ships pulled back their energy, and for the first time in half a century, human signals reached into the galaxy. The Volanti expected the humans to be afraid. They expected panic and chaos and desperate prayers. Instead, the humans were broadcasting on every frequency. They were announcing their presence to the entire galaxy. And their message was simple. We are here. Come and find us. 6 months later, the Carrack swarm answered. The first wave arrived near Europa, one of the moons around the human planet Jupiter. 200,000 Carrack's vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel and spread across. the space like a plague of insects. They were hungry and eager. Their sensors had detected human settlements throughout this system. They could taste the fear already, but something was wrong. The human colony on Europa was empty. The buildings were dark. The ships were gone. There was nothing here but silence and shadows. And then the space behind the swarm began to shimmer. 18 human battlecruisers appeared out of nowhere. They had been hiding, wrapped in technology that bent light and signals around their hulls. The Carracks had flown right past them without knowing they were there. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the lead ship. She was older now, her hair completely white, but her eyes were still as hard as stone. She looked at the swarm with the calm expression of a hunter who had finally found her prey. "This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Navy," she said, broadcasting on every Carrack's frequency. "You are in our space. You have 30 seconds to leave." The Carracks did not understand. For a million years, they had been the hunters. They had consumed 400 species, and not one of them had ever spoken to the swarm like this. Prey did not make demands. Prey did not give orders. Prey ran and screamed and died. 20,000 Carrack's vessels turned to attack. 30 seconds later, they were all destroyed. The humans had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. They knew exactly how the Carracks communicated. They knew the frequencies that controlled the hive mind. They had built weapons specifically designed to tear the swarm apart. The first wave of attacks used electromagnetic pulses that scrambled Carrack's coordination. The creatures that had once moved as one suddenly found themselves alone and confused. They crashed into each other. They fired on their own ships. They spun in circles, unable to understand what was happening. The second wave used kinetic weapons that punched through Carrack's armor like paper. The creature's shells, which had protected them from every weapon in the galaxy, shattered under human fire. And then came the third wave. The humans called it the Requiem. It was a sound, a deep rumbling frequency that no human ear could hear. But the Carracks could hear it. It reached into their shared mind and triggered something ancient and terrible. Pure, absolute panic. The remaining Carrack's vessels did not fight back. They did not try to regroup. They ran. They fled into the darkness of space, screaming warnings on every frequency they could reach. But it was not a warning to others. It was a warning about something new, something they had never encountered before. New predator. New predator. Admiral Chen Wei watched them go. Then she turned to her fleet. Follow them. The human ships were faster. The Carracks had never needed to run before, so they had never developed good escape systems. The humans caught them at the edge of the solar system and destroyed them all. But Chen Wei was not satisfied. This was just the first wave. There were trillions more Carracks out there, spread across thousands of star systems. One victory meant nothing if the swarm could simply send more. So the humans did not stop. They did not go home and celebrate. They pushed forward into the darkness, hunting the hunters. On the Volanti observation post, Yellen watched the battle recordings over and over. She saw human ships chase Carrack's vessels for days without rest. She saw human soldiers board Carrack's hive ships and fight the creatures in close combat. She saw humans take prisoners, study them, learn from them, and then use that knowledge to kill more efficiently. "They are not defending," Kale said quietly. "They are pursuing." "Yes." Yellen's voice was barely a whisper. "They are hunting the Carracks across the galaxy." "Yes." The reports kept coming. Human fleets attacking Carrack's colonies. Human weapons targeting Carrack's breeding grounds. Human soldiers burning Carrack's eggs by the millions. The swarm tried to fight back. They gathered their forces and launched massive attacks against human worlds. But the humans were ready. They had been preparing for decades. Every human colony was a fortress. Every human ship was a weapon. And every human soldier had been raised on stories of the monsters in the darkness. The Carracks had fed on fear for 1,000,000 years. They did not know how to fight an enemy that was not afraid. They did not know how to hunt a species that hunted them back. And so, for the first time in their long and terrible history, the Carracks began to know fear themselves. They tried to hide. Humans found them. They tried to run. Humans followed. They tried to surrender. Humans did not accept. Why? The Carrack's queen mind screamed across the void. Why do you not stop? We will leave your territory. We will never return. Why do you keep hunting us? Admiral Chun Wei answered from the bridge of her flagship. Because you killed 400 species. Because you fed on their terror for 1,000,000 years. Because somewhere out there, in the darkness, there might be other young species who will never exist because you ate their ancestors. She paused and looked at the stars. We are human, and we do not forgive. The hunt continued, day after day, month after month, year after year, and the Carracks, for the first time in their existence, understood what it felt like to be prey. The war lasted 5 years. 5 years of hunting across 1,000 star systems. 5 years of battle after battle, each one pushing the Carracks further back. 5 years of humans doing what they had always done best, finding their enemy and never, ever stopping by the end. The Carracks were broken. Admiral Chun Wei stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Perseverance, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Behind her, 300 human vessels held position around the Carracks' homeworld. Below them, the last of the swarm huddled in their ancient hives. Waiting for the end, the Queen Mind reached out one final time. Her signal was weak and desperate, nothing like the terrifying broadcast that had once made entire species surrender in fear. What are you? She asked. We have existed for 1,000,000 years. We have consumed 400 civilizations. No one has ever done this to us. What are you? Chen Wei looked at the planet below. Somewhere down there, the Queen Mind waited in darkness, surrounded by the last of her children. The great devourer had become the devoured. We are human, Chun Wei said simply. And we are what happens when prey decides to hunt. Please. The Queen Mind's voice was broken with fear. The creature that had fed on terror for 1,000,000 years was now drowning in her own. We will leave. We will go far away. We will never return. Please let us go. Chen Wei did not answer immediately. She turned to look at the Volanthi delegation on her bridge. High Protector Yellen was there, ancient and fading, watching with eyes that had seen 3,000 years of history. Admiral, Yellen said carefully, this could be considered genocide. Even for creatures like the Carracks, there are moral questions we must consider. Chun Wei shook her head slowly. We studied them, Protector, for 50 years before the war and 5 years during it. We learned everything about them. And what did you learn? They are not like us. They are not like you. They do not think or feel or dream the way thinking creatures do. Chun Wei pulled up data on her screen. The Carracks are not a natural species. They were created 1,000,000 years ago by a civilization that wanted a weapon. They are biological machines designed to consume and multiply. Their fear is not the fear of a thinking being. It is just a signal, a warning system built into their programming. Yellen studied the data. It was detailed and thorough. The humans had been very careful to understand exactly what they were fighting. You are certain? Yellen asked. We took prisoners. We studied their minds. We searched for any sign of true awareness. Chun Wei's voice was heavy. We found nothing. They feel sensation, but not emotion. They react, but they do not think. Killing them is not murder. It is pest control. Yellen was quiet for a long moment. And if you are wrong? Chen Wei looked at the old Velante with eyes that held no doubt. Then we will live with that burden. We will not let the chance that they might think stop us from protecting the species that definitely do. She turned back to the screen showing the Carrick's homeworld. Target their breeding chambers, she ordered. All of them. Coordinate with the fleet. Complete destruction. Leave nothing that can reproduce. The order went out. 300 human ships opened fire. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Carrick's homeworld was a dead rock. The last queen mind went silent. The swarm, the terror of a million years, was no more. Chen Wei watched the final explosions fade into darkness. There was no celebration on her bridge. No cheering or joy. Just quiet determination and the weight of what had been done. It is over, she said finally. Send the message to all human worlds. The Carricks are extinct. Across the galaxy, humans heard the news. Some celebrated. Most did not. They understood what this moment meant. They were no longer a young species hiding from the darkness. They were something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Yellen approached Chen Wei carefully. What happens now? The Admiral looked at the old protector with an expression that was almost gentle. Now we keep our promise. What promise? Chen Wei turned to the stars beyond her window. Out there, somewhere in the vast darkness, there were other young species. Some were peaceful and kind. Some were violent and dangerous. All of them were vulnerable to the things that hunted in the shadows. Before we left Earth, we made a promise to ourselves, Chen Wei said. We said that if we survived this, if we destroyed the swarm, we would not become what they were. We would not consume and conquer and feed. She looked at Yellen with eyes that held 1,000 years of human history. We would protect, like you tried to protect us, but not by hiding, not by running. Chen Wei smiled, and for the first time since Yellen had met her, it was a warm expression. We would protect by standing between the darkness and the light, by being the thing that hunts the hunters. The Terran Accords were signed 1 year later. Every species in the galaxy was invited to join. The terms were simple. Humanity would protect any world that asked for help. They would share their technology and their knowledge. They would stand guard against any threat that emerged from the darkness. In return, they asked for nothing. No tribute. No loyalty. No submission. We do not want to rule, Chen Wei said at the signing ceremony. We only want to make sure that what happened to those 400 species never happens again. Many species were suspicious. Some refused to join. But slowly, over the years, the galaxy began to change. Human ships patrolled the spaceways. Human soldiers trained with alien warriors. Human scientists worked alongside alien scholars. Yellen returned to Earth in her final years. She wanted to see the world she had protected for so long. She walked through human cities, watched human children play, listened to human music and human laughter. One day, in a park full of flowers, a small human girl approached her. The child looked at Yellen's glowing crystal form with wide, amazed eyes. "Are you an angel?" the girl asked. Yellen's light flickered with something like a smile. "No, little one. I thought I was a protector once. But I was wrong." "Wrong about what?" Yellen looked up at the sky. Human ships crossed the stars above, carrying soldiers and scholars and dreamers to 100 different worlds. They were out there right now, standing guard over species that had never even heard of Earth. "I thought I was protecting humanity from the darkness," Yellen said softly. "I did not understand that humanity was meant to protect the darkness from itself." The girl did not understand. She was too young, but someday she would. Someday all the species of the galaxy would understand what the humans had known all along. There are monsters in the darkness. There always have been, and there always will be. Some of them have claws and fangs and terrible hunger, but the greatest monsters are the ones who choose to fight them. And now, thanks to one small blue planet and its strange violent people, the darkness finally had something to fear. Humanity was hunting, and humanity never stopped.